Now, the official Suncoast weather with ABC7 meteorologist John Scalzi.
Current air temperature about where you'd expect it to be, 78 degrees. Dew point is at 74, making it feel kind of humid outside right now. East wind, light at about 3, will be somewhat variable this afternoon. Coming in out of the west as the sea breeze builds, and then we'll start to see a few more showers around. Nice start to the day. Daytime temperatures will probably top out in the low 90s. Right now they're in the upper 70s across the region. Some upper 70s as you get closer to the coastline. 77 degrees in Arcadia, 76 in Myakka, Wauchula, 77 in Parrish, Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch, Northport, 78 in Inglewood and in Venice, and out at the Key at Longboat, 80 degrees. Looking at a trough low pressure that still exists across the northern part of the Gulf waters. We have an area of low pressure off the Texas coast as well. Continue to watch that for any kind of tropical development, but the chance is pretty minimal rather, at about 10% or so. It's a very slow moving system, gradually drifting closer to the Texas coastline, so I'm not too worried about that. Otherwise, we have Julia over here continuing to spin around. It's been upgraded once again to a tropical storm status. It'll probably be downgraded once again to a tropical depression status later today or tomorrow. We have across the state of Florida, pretty quiet conditions locally. We're kind of in that doldrum zone, I guess you could say, between high pressure building into the south and that trough of low pressure to the north of us. And we aren't seeing a whole lot of activity here for your morning commute. Everything should be pretty quiet. We will develop by afternoon a sea breeze, which will light up radar, I think, in inland areas. But even there, I don't think the rain chance much more than 30–40%. We have this area of low pressure, Julia, which will continue to just meander off the coast for several days, spinning around, eventually weakening under the influence of dry air intruding into its space and some upper level winds that are kind of hostile for any sort of development or organization. So it'll be battling those two negative influences over the next several days and probably decreasing in intensity till it eventually washes away. Some computer models have suggested down the road it may make a loop-de-loop return trip toward Florida. Very unlikely. The more likely scenario, and the one the Hurricane Center is agreeing on, is that it drifts out into the open Atlantic by Monday and dies. Light winds, afternoon storms, calm weather this weekend. The active tropics continue, though, and we still watch several systems out here in the Atlantic. Of course, Ian continues to drift away from us. No worries there. Carl still forecast to turn out into the open waters, but we'll be watching it to make sure it does. And another wave forecast to develop with a decent chance of developing about 50% or so down the road. If it ever influenced the United States, would be at least 14 days away, and most computer models suggest it too will recurve out into the open waters. So tropics are active, but so far Florida looks good. We're looking at a northwest wind at about 5 knots for boaters today. Smooth conditions on bay and inland waters with less than 2-foot seas. And the official Suncoast forecast calls for a 40 to 50% chance of storms, mostly inland along the sea breeze fronts in the afternoon, right straight through the weekend.